we're going to talk about three of the mystery lameness things that we see that oftentimes when I get called out to a horse, it can be after they've ruled out almost every, he's got a little sacrum thing going on there, they ruled out almost every other thing, and they want to know why their horse is not traveling properly, why they're missing their leads, why they're short in the front, or their hips are sore, or there's something disconnected in the rear. So there's three things we see over and over again, and they're not well known. I call them the big three of mystery lameness. And one of them is what I call tender neck syndrome, which is what we don't see on Blackie, but is if we strafe down his neck like that, down that triple heater, and he was very tender there, then we would look in a different place on his body to just confirm what we're seeing. And this happens to a lot of mares. This is the triple heater association point right in this area, between the point of the hip and the last rib. And so again, we don't see anything there because he's not showing any problem there. But on mares that have that tender neck, very tender neck, it's spasms, boom, 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 right on down. That endocrine system is off, and what that might mean is their ovary is trapped a follicle, for example. That's one thing that might be at issue. We just look at him this other side. He's got a little bit there, and that's part of the stretch reflex part we're going to do for him. But he's showing not much problem in the neck at all. Back to what we were saying though, that endocrine system's off with this one particular tender neck syndrome, and that causes the triple heater to get very sensitive, which is the Chinese meridian for the endocrine system. So the second syndrome, which is very devastating and very common to horses, is the tender girth syndrome, what I call tender girth. So it tells us where it's coming from, what it's about. People call me and say, my horse is bucking me off, or they're very, and Blackie's showing a little bit here, so we can talk about it with him. When I put the cinch strap, my horse is very cinchy, and that's because the point here is he's showing it a little bit, and that is a point which, even though again we're not diagnosing for ulcer, it's an ulcer point. So it is a point that we know is revealing a stomach upset at least. So, and then again, if we see the point, we can refer them to somebody like Dr. DiPaolo. And why we know this is the point, and these, actually there's one here, there's one right here, which he's showing there. You see he's got a little spasm there, a reaction, and a point here. And all those points are, he has it to a degree, these points are all spasm. So that means to me, let's raise the question of this being possibly an ulcer or a lesion, and let's talk to your vet about it. So, and then and how that's debilitating. Now I've seen horses with that problem not being even able to take a step forward. So they get so constricted in their chest, and it can radiate out into their shoulders and their neck, and we know it was that problem because once we treated the ulcer, the horses can move fine in the front. So and then the point goes dormant. So as you can see, Blackie's a little upset when I get down in that area. So and then the third one, sometimes we can help just with that whole area by doing a shoulder release too. So let's go ahead and do one for him, and this will be part of our stretch reflex. Real quick. Again, I massage the area just to get it to loosen up, warm up, so that when we do this release, he'll be able to let go. Letting go on this thing is a kind of a mysterious process. We get we all hold on to our pain, and we resist going through it. oftentimes. So we're gonna pull Blackie out. There's a stretch reflex, so we pull him out to a certain angle, and he pulls back right there, and then we let him settle down. See if we got it. And if I remember, Blackie's a little hard to release on the shoulders here, so we're gonna maybe have to do it again. That's a good. But his eyes are showing me maybe he's got a little release here. So again, we wait for that lick and chew. He's not going there yet, so we'll try it one more time. Bring him out forward, and a little angle. That's a good boy. There he goes. So there we go. We have the release. His eyes got softer, and then he gets that big sigh. Now, one thing we want to make sure people that if you try this, make sure you're. It'd be good to have training first of all to do it, because even on the front end, it can be risky, because especially on the front end, people aren't as much aware of their horse putting their weight down. All of a sudden, you have to have good body language. Any of these things you have to have training to do. So, want to make sure that nobody gets hurt just watching a video. So, this is a syndrome that has been this weak haunch syndrome, I call it. Is a syndrome that's knowing about it because of Dr. DiPaolo informing me about it has been such a help in so many horses over the years, and basically it's what he calls rhinoherpes syndrome. And there is a Dr. Kane, Marvin Kane was the first acupuncturist in the country, and he came up with this point that we can use to determine, because he did blood tests every time he saw a rhinoherpes, chronic form of rhinoherpes called EHV4. Not the fatal form we read about in the papers, but just a form that gets in the horse, kind of like our cold sores on us, for which are herpes related. So, and that point is right here. You can see Blackie kind of dropping here and spasming. That point is the rhinoherpes special point on this meridian therapy approach that we can say is related to that chronic rhinoherpes, and that is related to lysine. So lysine, and because these horses are vegetarians, lysine is an essential amino acid, and they are deficient in it naturally because they eat very low protein, mostly roughage, and they don't have enough natural lysine in their body. So we can help that whole haunch area just by adding quite a bit of lysine to their diet, and then they can that haunch will get stronger and stronger. And it's very debilitating, because when they're so low in lysine, in this rhinoherpes blows up in population, and it will start to actually degrade the whole haunch area, and they'll lose their balance. Sometimes they have proprioception problems. It'll look kind of like EPM sometimes. So this is one of the big three that we see all the time, and I always tell people, give extra lysine to your horse. It's a nutritional need they have, and this is not coming from me. It's coming from the Research Development Council of Veterinary Medicine, for example, and Dr. DiPaolo, Dr. Kane. And it's a very cheap supplement, so it's an easy fix for that weak haunch syndrome.